When I was young, I really wanted to be Christian when I was 7. My friends took me to church, to Sunday school, and I went for a year, but after going to church for a year, I still couldn't believe in God. So I thought to myself, okay, I see, if my family's not Christian, none of my family are Christian, none of my relatives are Christian, my grandparents weren't Christian. I think there's one aunt that I know of who's like, I've only met twice, who believes in God, but the rest of my family, have no religion at all. So I thought, since my family's not religious, then I also can't believe in God. So I kind of gave up on believing in God when I was 7 years old. And then later on, a lot of my friends tried to take me to church, but I found it was really boring. And they would always tell me, like, Jesus died for you and you're a sinner. But I was always like, well, what did I actually do? I never really did anything wrong. Like, they always make me feel bad when I come to church. So I didn't want to keep on going to church. So I told my friends I didn't want to go. And then later on, when I was in university, I ended up starting to wonder about God and going to church. I was really surprised because when I thought about my life, I always thought I would believe in God just before I died. But then I realized, like, I don't know when I'm going to die. So maybe I'll believe in God too late. Maybe I won't have a chance to believe in God. So I started to believe in God. But actually, when I started to believe in God, I went to church because the pastor was really funny. I thought if I go to church, then I'll also be able to be funny, like the pastor. But at the same time, I kind of really didn't want to be a Christian, and I really didn't want to go to church. So after starting to believe in God, I ended up crying for quite a few days because I was like, I didn't want to become Christian, but now I have to believe in God. But I found that God was really different from the way that I thought that He was. Before, I always thought that God was angry, that God was judgmental, that God was always like blaming me for sinning. But then, I started to learn more and more about God, and I realized that God listened to me and that God was watching over me. So I really wanted to know more about God. And I would go to church twice on Sundays. I would do Bible study with my law school, and I would also find other Bible studies to go to as well. But the more I read the Bible studies, the more I felt like I don't understand God as much as I want to. I don't understand the Bible at all. And so I kind of felt like I would never be able to understand God or understand the Bible at all. Then I went to South America to learn more about God because I thought South Americans are really passionate about their faith. But when I went there, people were passionate, but they couldn't really teach me anything about God. And I ended up getting really sick in South America. I ended up having to drop out of university. I ended up having to move back with my parents, and I ended up having to stay in my house because I couldn't walk. I was so dizzy for 6 months. So I really wondered what I should do. When I was in South America, I thought everything will be okay when I return to Australia because Australia has really good medical facilities. Australia has really good doctors. My mum works for the medical system, so she'll know who to introduce me to. But when I went back to Australia, they didn't really know what was wrong with me. They said I had a problem with my ears, but it didn't explain why I was so exhausted, why my body felt like concrete, why I was having anxiety attacks and I couldn't walk the paths that I'd walked on before without freaking out and having to just stand still until the anxiety attacks passed. So I really realized that there was a limit to what I could do by myself, and I really felt like I needed God's help. So I started to pray to God. I started to pray, and I started to read a lot of other books as well. I read a lot of books about Buddhism. I read a lot of books about spirituality. I really wanted to find guidelines to live my life. I wanted to find rules to live my life so that I could make my life work out really well. But no matter how much I read, I felt like I couldn't really figure out exactly what I should do and how I should live my life. I prayed to God and I told God, maybe I only believe in you because I live in a Christian country. If I'd been Muslim and born in a Muslim country, then maybe I would have been Muslim. Maybe I should have become Hindu. Maybe I should become Buddhist. Please show me, God, which religion is right. I just believed that God existed, so I thought that God would be able to show me what the right religion was, but it would be hard for me to find out on my own. Then a week after I prayed that prayer, I met someone from the Providence Church. When I listened to her, she told me that the man who had taught her Bible studies could teach the Bible better than anyone that she'd ever heard before. She said that he'd spent 21 years just praying and reading over the Bible. For the first time, I felt hope. I felt, wow, I'm going to be able to learn about God. I'm going to be able to know God. So I asked her if I could start studying Bible studies straight away. Right from the start of Bible studies, I found that these Bible studies were so different from other Bible studies that I'd listened to. They were really concrete and really logical. My mom is a scientist. She always told me, you can believe in God, but you shouldn't throw away your brain. You can read the Bible, but you shouldn't believe in everything in the Bible. You should be discerning. So I always, remembered what she said. When I learned Bible studies from Providence, they didn't tell me just believe, just believe, just believe. Instead, they explained like the background, the culture. They explained how much science had developed at each time. They explained things in so much depth, and they were able to explain the stories in the Bible in a way that really made logical sense, and also in a way that connected to my life. So I felt like when I learned it, it wasn't just a story from 2,000 years ago or a story from 4,000 years ago. It was actually a story that could help me now. And I felt like by learning the Bible in a way that made sense, I could also trust in God. I could also trust in religion, and I could also see how I could change my life as well. And when I came to Providence, I ended up really feeling like God was close to me. I ended up really feeling that God had watched me all this time. When I was really sick, when I really wanted to know about which religion to go to, I realized that God had listened to my prayer and that God had let me meet someone from Providence Church. So I realized I could start to relax more in my life. Instead of worrying about what I should do, instead of worrying about how I should live my life, I realized that I could pray and ask God. And I realized because Pastor John taught us through the Bible how to communicate with God, I realized I could get an answer from God myself. Before that, I'd always tried to ask pastors or try to ask people, but I realized that I shouldn't rely on other people because they didn't know me, they didn't know my life. And I realized that God recognized things in me and that God could help me to develop myself in ways that I'd never ever dreamed of before. So when I came to Providence, I started to really find new confidence. I started to find new hope. I started to really value myself. And also I started to really value other people's talents as well. Pastor John taught us about how we shouldn't be jealous of other people because the talents that they have were talents that they'd really worked on and really developed. And so I realized, okay, I don't need to be jealous of these people. Instead, I can just develop my own talents. I can also become like that as well. And so I really realized how much potential I had. And I started to draw, I started to learn different languages, I started to sing more. I started to really try to find out what the talents that I had were. And as I did that, I realized life was really fun. That actually before I'd only really liked languages, but I realized I can also develop other talents as well. It wasn't that I wasn't good at these things, but I just never tried them before. Pastor John told us also that we need to keep on trying, that nothing works out the first time. Of course, we fail because we've never done it before. But if we keep on trying, then in the end, we'll be able to do it. So by learning about how to succeed, I was able to find out how to succeed at many different things as well. By listening to Pastor John, I really wanted to be someone that lived my life in a beautiful way as well. I really wanted to change my heart. I really wanted to change the way that I thought. I really wanted to know God better as well. I found like the people that I saw in Providence who were the happiest were the people who had the strongest connection to God, were the people who really focused on God and really felt God speaking to them. So I really wanted to do that. At the beginning, I always thought prayer was strange, and I felt like, how can I talk to God? Is God really listening? But the more I prayed, the more peace I found in my heart. The more I listened to God's words, the more answers I found, and I felt like it was like God really speaking to me one-on-one. So I really felt like Providence was the place where if you really want to know about God, then you can know about God more deeply than anywhere else. I found like it's a place where if you want to develop yourself, then you can develop yourself and really be encouraged, really be guided well. And I really felt like that Providence is a place where you can kind of find peace, find happiness, and find a place where you can make your own life the way that you want it to be. I never expected to be religious. I never expected to be happy believing in God. I never expected to pray or read the Bible. I used to think that people who went to church once a week and did Bible studies once a week were crazy. Why would they spend so much time believing in God? But after experiencing it for myself, I found, really knowing God, really finding spiritual peace means I can find peace and happiness in any situation in my life. I found that really knowing God means that I can find a shortcut to doing the things that I want to do in life. And I found that, every day I can see how God encourages me, how God helps me, and how God leads me through the people around me. Yeah.